All right, we'll call this meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First item of business tonight are the minutes of the regular board meeting January 12th. We've all had a chance to look at them. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and second to approve the regular board minutes from January 12th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the approval of the general fund vouchers 82,978 through 83,067, voiding 82,693 and 82,977, and then wire transfers 2026-0260 through 2026-0302. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the general fund vouchers, the voids, and the wire transfers as read.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the general fund vouchers. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is the public comment section. Who would like to begin?
I don't think that's what they're being for.
Nobody's here for public comment?
He's trying to trick you, don't let him do that.
All right. Sorry about that, guys. Just having a little bit of fun. Then we'll move on to the next item of business, Spotlight on Education, introduction of our valedictorians and salutatorians.
Always the best part of the board meeting for me for the year is introducing our Val and Sal every year. Two kids that have made academics a top priority for the last 4 years, beyond that, but when it really counts the last 4 years, who show up every day and take care of business and go above and beyond in the classroom. And because of that, that's why they're here tonight. So I'm pleased to announce that our salutatorian is Sophia Telejohn, who's the daughter of Lee Telejohn, and our valedictorian is Tyler Kress, who's the son of Mike and Jody Kress. So congratulations to Tyler and Sophia. So
To both you guys.
if it's okay with the board, I think they'd both like to share with you kind of what their plans are after they walk across the stage this spring.
Terrific.
So I have been accepted to UW Eau Claire, and I am thinking of being a history or social studies teacher.
That's what the best do, Tyler.
Agreed.
I'm planning on going to UW La Crosse. I'm undecided so far on my major, so.
We're
Right on.
encouraging education, so.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah. Congratulations, Mom and Pa's, too.
Yeah, great
Good
job.
guys.
And you, as always, you guys excelled in the classroom, but also to achieve that over 4 years takes a high level of character and your work ethic, but just the kind of students you are, walking through the hallway, and the character that you guys have is always on display as well. So it's always makes us proud to see that and recognize that as well. So great job, you guys.
Yeah, right on.
Miss hearing you in band and watching you guys in sports. Congrats.
I'll get them out of here and take a picture if that's okay.
Yeah, take a picture. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. All right, then we'll move on to our official board business. The first is approval of resignations and retirements.
Okay, so we do have one retirement. So we have that February 5th deadline for our teachers who are going to be trying to make themselves eligible for our post-employment benefits. So we do have one retirement from first grade teacher, Mrs. Kelly. Michelle Kelly is retiring, and she, not a surprise, she made it known to us that was her plan, but still was a few tears in her eyes as she made it official last week.
She's been with us for a long time. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the retirement.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the retirement of Mrs. Kelly. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business are approval of hires.
Okay, so we've got two to bring forward here for recommendation to approve. So the first one is we need a long-term substitute in Title I to end the year out for the last couple months of the year. So we'd like to hire Rosemarie Spinell for that, and that name might be familiar to you. She's a retired educator from another district, but she's done a number of things for us over the years in the district. She's been a part-time 4K teacher. She's done long-term subs for us before, and she'll be quite capable to come into that title role and work with kids with interventions. So that's one. And then the other one is our junior senior high evening custodian position that we've had open since December. We had posted it in late December, early January. But we'd like to recommend Alan Schmidt. Alan has some years of experience as a custodian in a neighboring district in Amory, and is eager to come join us here in Clear Lake.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the hires. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the new hires. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. The next item of business is approval of the spring coaching roster, but it's been requested to move that later in the meeting. So that's what we'll do. The next item of business after that will be the approval of 660301 shared course agreement for 26 and 27.
Okay, so this is what we refer to as our Prairie Lakes Agreement, and the name comes from Prairie Farm, Turtle Lake, Clear Lake, and then Clayton. So this was established a number of years ago, prior to my being superintendent, but it's just a shared agreement between the four schools, where we agree to, the finances for the cost per course to do, allow students from the different schools to take the class with the other school. Haven't really done a lot of it, but it's just good to have the agreement there and have it as an option if we want to use it. So no changes to the agreement from what it's been the last couple of years. So I would recommend that we renew that.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the shared course agreement.
I'll second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the shared course agreement. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Just to comment on that too, we just met late last week on Friday to go over this, and I attached it here digitally. I sent it to the printer to print out, but I would like to have somebody sign it before we leave tonight. So if I can't remember if it's one or both of you, clerk and president.
Okay.
Look at that, but it's in the queue in the printer. So.
All right, motion passes. Next item of business is the consideration / approval of incident response software application purchase.
Oh,
Did we miss
one
one?
more about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of property liability and workers' compensation insurance renewal. I wanted to skip that one.
Yes. Yeah, it's the most expensive item tonight. But it's our annual renewal for, as Mr. French, you just said, property liability, workers' comp. If you recall, last year we bid it out completely. We did a full bid. EMC retained the work for us last year, so this is our renewal. The last 2-3 years have been kind of rough for property insurance. Things are kind of evening out a little bit better. So there's a modest increase of about $10,000-$11,000. It was $135,952 last year. It'll be $146,961 this year. Half of that difference is from the subtotal from all the property and liability and so on, and then half of it comes from an increase from the workers' comp. So just one thing about workers' comp, just a reminder, and something that I've learned is, the workers' comp is really, that rate is pretty much set by the state. So doesn't matter which vendor you go with. So that would have been the deal with no matter who we were with. And our experience modification actually is below 1.0 again, so a better, that goes on an average. So that's better than it has been, and it's better than average. We still get a 15% dividend, which is basically the way that the companies compete. And nowadays, like in the last few years, it's been, those things have taken a hit pretty well. So still having a 15% dividend is pretty good. So overall, it's a pretty good renewal. After the last few years, I was kind of bracing myself, and it's not so bad. So I don't know if there's any questions or.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the EMC insurance renewal.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the MC insurance renewal. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business then is the consideration/approval of incident response software application purchase.
Okay, and I'll just give a little intro. If we want to approve it here, we can, or if we want to discuss, we've got two different bids, competitive bids. If people want to discuss it in close, we certainly can, or we could do it here. But anyway, so we became aware of, and I mentioned this last month, became aware of an app or a technology tool that's available to us that, as we learned about it, was pretty appealing, and the cost is also pretty appealing. Basically, sought a competitive type of product or a similar type of product to compare to see. And I would just say that, just to put up front, my recommendation would be to accept the E3 product, the Incident Response app. And so just in a nutshell, what it does is it is a software application that can go on every desktop computer in the buildings. It can go on iPads. It can also go on people's phones. If an employee is willing to put the app on their own personal phone, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to. But basically, it's an opportunity to alert at different levels of severity, alert people of an incident. So it could be something as simple as, I don't want to say simple because that's not, but I mean, if we had, let's say, a medical emergency in a classroom or a hallway, it's a way to alert the office or alert the entire building based on, again, different levels of what we determine how we want to set that up. It could also be like a most severe thing, a fire drill, a tornado, God forbid, an intruder in the building who's dangerous. But it can be triggered by anyone, and you can set it up to also have it then go to administrative team or office staff who can then kind of give out the final before it goes out to everyone. But it alerts everyone with a loud noise and a flash on the screen. It takes over the screen, and then it will say the kind of alert that it is, and then it triggers every person who gets it to then answer a question or answer a couple of simple questions with a yes, no, and it puts in real time. It puts onto an electronic map, green or red. I'm safe, or everything's okay where I'm at, or no, there's a problem where I'm at, and then it maps it in real time so people can see where the concern is or where there might be a safety threat. And it can be low-level things too, like, again, perhaps it could just be a teacher wants some assistance from a principal in their classroom for a situation. So, and that would be just more of a low-level, low-key message that would go to the office. So the price is $4,000 per year. The first year there's an initial $1,000 setup, and that it's per school or it's per district, so it's not per person or per student or per staff member. It's $4,000 for the district, which I was a little shocked when I heard the price. So I did talk to at least one other district in Wisconsin who's currently using it, just to say, okay, we were impressed by it. Does it really work well? Do you like it? You've had it, and the response I got was positive. Like, yes, it's also feeling like it was a good value, first of all, but a good product. So, and again, I also sought another proposal from another presentation that we had from another competitor product, and had its nice points as well. The cost wasn't as good, and I also felt like it was not as perhaps user-friendly with its simplicity, and it did not have that mapping feature the same way in any way. So that's it in a nutshell.
We've talked about it before. I think we all have kind of, judging by everybody's looks, I think we're all ready to just agree with it and approve it.
It wasn't something that we were looking for, but it kind of became aware of it, and then we looked at the price. It's like, well, this seems like kind of a no-brainer. It really gave us a sense of assurance. Like, if we were ever in that situation, like, this would be a pretty neat tool to have.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the E3 incident response app.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded to approve the incident response software application purchase. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the consideration / approval of the lighting update in the high school gymnasium.
Okay, so this school year, kind of ongoing, we've had some minor issues with some of the light fixtures in the gymnasium starting to lose their ability to function. So those were put in there, I believe, around 2010. I can recall at the time we were switching from big halogen lights to, they were like what would be today kind of like the old fluorescent fixtures, but with LED bulbs in them is what we use. So they're good. But what's happening now is, why can't I think of the word? The ballast. Thank you. The ballasts are not being made anymore. So as they're beginning to kind of give us trouble, we can't get parts for them. So Mr. Osmond-Rude's been talking to me about this on and off for a little while. So he did get a couple of proposals to come in. Yeah.
Proposals, are they like for like LED, or is one more lumens, less lumens? Because it'd be nice, apples to apples.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah,
I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Yep.
So.
You know what? That's a good. I don't have that in detail on lumens and
the price
and so
of
on.
LEDs, high lumens versus can be. So
they're both for LED. Yeah, they're both for.
Didn't see that. So other than that, I'll leave it to you guys.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point. We should probably check to make sure that it's going to provide us what we're looking for
Yeah, I didn't have Mr. Osmond here tonight, but those are good questions.
I did a little bit of looking today. Like 20,000 lumens are around 300. You get a lot less for 100. So
right.
It just would be nice. So
yeah, no, we can certainly bring it back. Give us a few more of those details. But yeah, the one proposal is for it's not open. It's $7,700. The other proposal is for, I believe, about 12. It's still opening for me. What it would do either way would be to replace the current fixture instead of having a ballast and some of the, I can't remember the other part that's in there, but basically it would just switch to an all LED fixture. Right now we have 2 stages of lighting where it's medium and high. It would just be an on and off, and the LEDs are certainly a lot more efficient than what's in there now. So
they're not LEDs right now, Chris.
They are LED bulbs, but they're going through an old fixture that didn't, that's what existed back at that time.
The other question that I would have is there any focus on energy type of rebates and stuff that would be available for us?
Can certainly ask. I'm guessing that the savings is not going to be that significant because we're going from a older LED to just a new LED, but can certainly look into it.
Yeah, are you on a time crunch for this, or do we have time?
I mean, if it was approved, Tom was hoping to maybe schedule it for spring break, but that's not necessity. It's not a necessity. I mean, it's.
Well, we could do we could do it one of 2 ways. We could go ahead and approve you to get this taken care of, and you could just answer them questions amongst yourself.
Make sure we ensure that it is apples to apples. Yeah, absolutely. We could do that if you guys are willing to. It is less than $10,000, so technically, I guess it's not really didn't have to bid it, but we wanted to make sure we just do that to make sure and bring it to the board for transparency and just
be nice to get the best bang for what we're getting.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, well then I'll entertain a motion if you guys want to put one forth.
I'll make a motion to approve new lighting in the gym.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve new lighting in the gym. You guys are going to take care of the incidentals, and we'll go from there. So, do I hear a second? I did hear a second?
Yep.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. We're easy tonight, Chris. Okay, we're easy tonight. Except not now. We're moving on to the HV controls at the elementary school.
Well, we ended the expensive part of the meeting now. This is more, we talked about this issue last month too. Gave a preview, and did some, since that time, have done some more investigating and digging. And I guess in a nutshell, what I'd say, I think what we need to do is take a step back and slow down and check on a few more things. So talked to a couple different firms about the idea of commissioning. Also spoke with our friends from Kraus Anderson who helped us with our facility planning and did our facility study. Gave me some nice options for ways to consider to going about it. And I think based on those conversations, I think the best thing to do is do what we call a little bit of recommissioning or pre-commission, and invest a little bit of money to have a firm come in and do a more in-depth, again, a third party who's not vested, who's not selling a product, who is not installing a product, come in and have their engineers, talk to Tom, talk to the staff, dig into things a little bit more. The issue we're having is with the controllers. It's not really so much with the physical, operation of things over there, although we have, aside from that, have had some issues with the boilers, but that's a separate issue not related to this, basically. So I guess that my recommendation would be to hire someone, come in, do that investigative stuff, give us a report, and then that allows us to ensure that whatever we're asking anybody to do or whatever anyone's proposing to do to fix it, again, we've worked with Train in the past, and they've given us a proposal, but just to ensure that that's the right course of action. And the outcome could be that they confirm, like, yeah, this looks like a good idea. It could also be like, nope, let's look at it a different way. So I guess that's I had something else I was going to say, but I kind of lost my train of thought. Anyway, it'll come back to me. What questions do people have about it?
I'd like to make a comment that's kind of good news. We were looking at a pretty big price tag, and maybe these guys can come in and fix it, or I'd recommend that we fix just the controls, and maybe it'll cost, not as much. That's one option. Is they could come in and say, we could make the far end controls out in the rooms work with this system if we do this little tweak differently. We'll just, like I said, their third party doesn't have a stake in selling us a product or installing anything. They're also pretty flexible about doing it kind of in stages. Like, hey, first stage we'll come in, do an investigation, give you a report. Then if you want us to do more, we can. If it helps, if we need to do some pre-engineering or write up some plans, they can do that. If we want them to do different levels of kind of oversight at the end too, those are options. Another question is, we've also, with our 10-year facility plan, we know we got other big things to look at, and this issue was looked at like, well, okay, I think this is more of a short-term project that we need to probably get done, because what's happening right now is just the system's not operating on full efficiency, and it's requiring a lot of manual adjustment, which it shouldn't, based on the type of system that it is. And I think it's probably a more urgent thing than, say, maybe a longer term. Let's say we were to do a facilities referendum in the future. I don't know that it's something that can wait for that, but still, they can give us some ideas and make sure maybe they give us a different answer. So. And we don't want Mrs. Anderson to be cold in her office anymore. That's really what's driving this entire thing. I'm joking, of course. I'm joking, but so nothing to approve or anything. I guess just more of an update, recommended course of action. So
do they look at the boiler too and kind of give us a?
They'll look at all
heads up on that too?
Yep, they will look at all they'll look at all the physical equipment too. So.
Okay. We'll move on then to strategic plan score card review. Portions of Pillar 1, students, and Pillar 2, staff.
Okay. And I apologize, I did not get those attached, all of them on there until today, just because we're running up to, we met last week to get our data together, but there were some last minute figuring that needed to be done and compilation of things. It's been a busy couple of weeks for the principal staff here the last couple of weeks. So what we're going to look at specifically tonight is the Pillar 1 academic. And so again, these are the mid-year check-ins, not the final analysis of achieving the goal or not, but it's the mid-year leading indicators, we call it, like, checking in mid-year to say, hey, are we on track? So, and then Pillar 2 is just on mine, or I should say on the District 1, just a quick overview of the stay interview process and what that's all about. So I think maybe we'd start with Mrs. Anderson, if that's okay.
Sure. Totally good. All right, so the elementary scorecard, Pillar 1, the Foster High Levels of Learning for All forward exam, top row there, not what we're talking about tonight. We do have our windows set for April, so we will be discussing those at another time. But what we are going to look at is our universal screeners that we gave. So this year was the first year that we've done Ames Web Plus for both reading and math in kindergarten through 3rd grade. So we actually have some scores we can look at collectively there. And then 4th, 5th, and 6th are still doing the FastBridge screener. And you can see that the goal here, it's broken down from kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd because those Ames Web Plus screeners do look at different things. There's a full composite score of a number of different tests, and then once you get to, 2nd and 3rd, it's what's called the ORF, oral reading fluency. They read a 1-minute time passage. The teacher takes notes on that, and it gives a score. So this is also in compliance with Act 20. This was the Ames Web Screener is the one that the state of Wisconsin is requiring us to use for 3rd grade and under. So we chose to use it for math this year just so it's the same platform for the children and they don't have to go between 2 different platforms. Our fall scores are in that first column there. And then we're into our mid-year. They are color-coded, or like we kind of stoplight at this point to give an idea. So it's percentage of students meeting grade level benchmark. And for the Ames Web, kindergarten through 3rd grade, that is 25th percentile or above. For our 4th through 6th grade with FastBridge, that's 30th percentile or above. We use that as what the screener gives us. We could calculate 25th, but it will take a lot of manual effort to make that happen. So it is the 25th percentile for our lower grades and the 30th percentile for our upper grades. You'll see all sorts of colors there. And again, this is to make that progress by the end of the year. One thing I do want to share is we just today had a CISA consultant come in. We're talking about data literacy and what we do with the data that we're receiving and how we can truly make decisions based on that. And we have 3 more meetings set up in March and April to really dig in because we test, we make some diagnostic and even dig deeper, but then what do we do? Are we really making impact? So it's exciting that we have that going on right alongside all of this testing. I guess you can read the percentages there for yourself. Do you have any questions specifically regarding the reading or the math? Okay, so we will take a peek at the promoting growth. This is just kind of the reverse percentage. This is where we want to see that growth. And again, you're going to notice the percentages are literally, they're going to equal 100. So this is just that looking at it from a different vantage point of wanting to reduce those achievement gaps and decreasing that percentage by 5%. And again, we use the Ames Web, we use the FastBridge, and this was the 2nd year using Ames Web, first with Ames Web Math, but teachers are feeling much more comfortable with it. Students now have seen it, and that's helpful even just for test-taking skills to be able to kind of know what that test is going to look like. Our littles mainly are with the teacher one-on-one, so we do get substitutes for them. And then our uppers are usually on a computer. So, and there are our scores. Is there anything there that stands out that you would like to discuss?
I'm sorry, going back to the screener, or the first one there, those kindergarten, first grade numbers. So are those the same exact tests, same exact in the fall and versus?
Yeah, so what it does is as the student grows through, the test is going to be harder. It's going to grow with them. So for example, a kindergartner in the first month versus a kindergartner in the fourth month. I mean, that test is going to progress where they would need to be.
So it's a different test.
It is,
Yep.
yes. It's going to test the same kinds of concepts. They're just going to be where they should be at that point in the year. And really when we're sitting in if we're back at that reading for kindergarten and first grade, and we're sitting at, red that we haven't met our goal, we started at 91%. We're red because we wanted to maintain 90-some% of our kindergartners at benchmark. So 71% is still a really high number. 80 is ideal. 80 is kind of always, if you can reach 80 in anything for a percentage, that's deemed very successful. So those scores are still quite.
These are pretty new teachers too, right?
Yeah, we did have a lot of different experience levels coming in or new to grade level, but with good understanding too of the concepts that need to be taught.
I think we've seen that initial fall kindergarten screener over the years, even with Fast Spread and even with STAR, always kind of give an artificially high fall initial score. I mean, it's just kind of been a trend.
The winter scores always seem like they go down.
Yeah.
And then in the spring they go back up.
Yeah, and the kindergarten teachers have said in the past, so we're just talking like letter names, and now we're talking reading.
Right,
So you go from September or October, it's just, your letters, and then now we're in January. Are you able to read?
This,
Reading
words.
simple words.
Yep.
this is right after Christmas break and everything too, right?
About the middle of January, so about a week or so after we get back into the swing of things, and then
Everybody's sick
take some
and
time.
feeling cruddy and
Yeah. So that is the elementary card, and we just will keep progressing, and we really have a staff that is committed to student success, and we've got a lot of pieces in place to see that happen.
Okay. Mr. Melberg, you want to go?
High school? Sure. So pillar one for the high school, we're looking at a couple of different things as we use the CERT test at the high school and now the junior high to kind of make some predictions. And it is proven to be a really great tool for us, for our high school students. And this is the first year, if you remember from this fall, that we're trying it in the junior high. I think in the long run, it's a great tool for our 7th and 8th graders, and it helps a great deal with our planning on finding gaps in our curriculum, but at the same time, it's not a great predictor of how kids are going to do on the board exam because it's a completely different test. So that's a little bit of a work in progress when it comes to our scorecard. But we'll go through the high school first. You can see our juniors, they're right on track. This group has done a really nice job. And if you go back to their 24 score, their 25 score, we're just seeing continuous improvement with this group. So with their overall averages, we're hitting the green on 2 of them, right there to hit it on the other 3 as well. Got high hopes that this group could put our composite over 20 for the first time in quite some time. So we're close. The next one down, if you remember from this fall, this is one that we added in. The class percentile average on these assessments, and the reason we added this in is because in this building we go from the forward exam in junior high to the ACT in the senior high, and the only thing that I can find to try and figure out some comparable to continue to measure their success is that percentile average. It's not going to be perfect because we're going to go from a percentile average on the Ford exam of the state of Wisconsin to a percentile, to a national average on the ACT. So things are going to change there. And then you'll notice a lot of red there. The other thing, another little bit of a curveball is those are percentile averages for just the schools across the country that took the cert this winter. And so how accurate those percentiles are, I'm not sure yet. I guess I'll know more at the end of the year to see if we can rely on that enough, or if it's a hard enough number for us to rely on. We're kind of learning as we go with that one. But score-wise, with those juniors, we're right there. So I think I would anticipate those percentile averages will go up if those scores stay where they are once everybody takes it. At the same time, it's worth mentioning that the ACT did make some changes this year, and they're telling us that we're not going to be able to compare this year's scores with previous year's scores because of those changes. So they like doing that to us every once in a while.
About every 3-4 years, it seems like.
So if we go down to the sophomores are making progress. This group, we struggled with our goals last year. We didn't look at the data close enough to set those goals appropriately, and I think we've got them. Maybe we went too far the other way, and they're exceeding our expectations right now, which is great. And hopefully we can keep that all green for the sophomores and maybe go above and beyond what we were expecting from them. So, and you see their percentile scores are great. Math we're close on, and have an opportunity to maybe make some jumps there in the next couple of months. Down to the freshmen, the only thing we're looking at there is their percentile because they have not taken the ACT yet, and it's tough to do a comparable. So we just look at, okay, what was their percentile scores throughout their career in the forward exam, and can we continue those into their freshman year when they take the pre-ACT. As you can see, we saw some big jumps from them in 25, well, specifically in 24. And we've noticed a trend with each group of freshmen coming through the last 3 or 4 years that we're struggling to maintain that jump that they're getting in 6th grade. And we're seeing an indication of that too. So we're looking into what we can do to maintain that, but also, again, keep in mind those forward exam scores are percentile based on the state of Wisconsin, and then we move to the ACT and it's a nationwide percentile. 8th grade, we are looking at same thing. We're looking at them to increase their percentile, and same thing as I just mentioned. We're seeing jumps in 6th grade right now that we're struggling to maintain, and we're seeing some patterns of that right now. Although we did see a nice jump in 8th grade from the fall test to the winter test. So that is nice. And we've maintained in math and had a little bit of a jump in ELA for 7th grade. Again, this is the first time through with the CERT exam with our 7th and 8th graders, not necessarily a predictor of what they're going to do on the forward exam. Scrolling down for promote growth, what we're looking to do here is shrink the number of kids or students below the approaching category when they take the test. Currently right now in the high school, 13% of our student body was below that for the winter testing, and 21 in junior high for ELA and 15 for math. Those numbers were quite small last year, and so we set a pretty aggressive goal at 10%. And I still think we have an opportunity to hit that goal, basically because the CERT test is not a predictor of the forward exam. I think that would be it for Pillar 1 for me. Mm-hmm. Anyone have any questions?
Do this testing also gradually increases throughout the year?
So the CERT test is a predictor. No, it doesn't.
No.
The CERT test is a predictor. If they took the junior took the CERT test today, or took the ACT today, the CERT would tell you what they would get on it today.
Okay.
And we got a couple, well, not a couple months anymore. We've got a month to go with our juniors before they take it.
Well, if you look at the special ed
score.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt?
Sorry.
So the going down a little bit further to the Zello, the juniors have 0%. Is that?
Yeah, so that was, we reported on that last time. Each of these groups, remember, are depending on which class they're doing it in, so some of them won't get it until the second semester.
Okay.
So yes, our juniors won't have touched Zello in the first semester.
Sorry,
Nope, no worries.
I forgot we already talked about that.
Okay. So for Pillar 1 for students with disabilities, for the elementary, students with disabilities in grades 3 to 6 will increase their forward percentile average by the goal listed. So you'll see that I have the 2025 for both ELA and math, and then the goal for ELA of 16.6% average, and then math 22.7 average. So if we go over to mid-year, right now our 3rd through 6th graders in ELA are averaging 19.6%, and our kids in math are doing very good, and they're actually above, I mean, they both were above 25.68% for that. So, you know, again, Ames Web, you've got 3rd grade, which has the oral reading fluency, and then 4th through 6th grade is A reading. And so then I look at the percentiles for each of the kids, and so then I get to jot it down on paper and then give an average for all of them. And we did have a couple elementary students, for a couple different reasons, they didn't end up taking the Fast Bridge for either reading or math. So that is, you know, in the fall, or when we get our spring or our results from the fall, may change a little bit, may go lower, may go higher, just depending, because we had 2 students who didn't participate. So junior high with the CERT for 7th and 8th, I have them yellow. They probably should be red, because looking at where at our goal right now, they're not near it enough for our ELA, but they did make a big jump from fall to winter, especially in math for the 8th graders, and then ELA for the 8th graders, and then ELA for the 7th graders, you know, went up about 4 percentage points. For math, again, they did a pretty good jump for both 8th grade and 7th grade, but not where we want them to be towards the goal of their overall percentage for where they need to be for the forward. So that's something we're still working on for those grades. For senior high, 9th through 10th grade, was that will increase their pre-ACT average by the goal listed. So the average we wanted them to increase was to 11.4 for ELA and 15.82 for math. Right now, for the 9th and 10th graders looking at the CERT, they're averaging 12.33 for ELA, and they are averaging 15.17. Oops, that should be yellow instead of green. Switch that. And then for grade 11, it was, the goal for ELA was 12.57, and ELA ended up being at 14. And then math was 15.78, and for 11th graders, it's averaging at 19.29. So there was some good growth there from one to the next. So now we're just talking about growth in general. We want to decrease the percentile, the 29% from the 24-25 forward exam for scores being below the 6th percentile, and then the goal was to be at 27. Well, right now,
For 3rd through 6th, ELA was at 40, which is not where I want it to be, but we had some kids on some of their tests. We had some real, I mean, all the way through 3rd through 6th, we had some kids who, like earlier in the fall, they were at like the 9th percentile or close to the 10th percentile, and then this winter they went down to the 1st percentile. So is that because the winter test is harder, or is that because some of them, because I look at each individual kids and I know the kids, and so so a couple of them I'm wondering, like, did you try your hardest, or did you just click through the test? And then there's other ones who went down, who I was surprised that went down, and so I don't know if it's because it was harder or not for them. And then the 7th and 8th grade growth. So 7th grade in the fall was at like 0%, and then 8th grade I couldn't get a percentile at that point because they weren't quite done with it. But now in the winter we had 33% ELA. So 33% of our kids with special needs in 7th and 8th grade are below the 6th percentile on their CERT test. And then in math, same thing, 33%. So basically what that is I can remember now. I have it written down. We have 25 kids in 7th and 8th grade, and 5 of them were below the 6th percentile. What is that? So there was that. So, and then the 9th and 11th graders for growth did really well. So we wanted them to be below less than 20% of them in 9th through 11th grade, and right now we have 15% that are below a 13 for a composite score. So overall, the 9th through the 11th graders made some good growth there. Questions?
Okay. All right. I can look at the district one with you then. So under the Pillar 1 students and academic stuff, I really won't spend much time on that because the district one is a compilation up from, so a lot of it is similar data. We just look at, maybe a little bit different parts of it that we dip in and look at certain areas. Elementary is more of a compilation of a grade range, K through 3rd, instead of broken out by every grade like Mrs. Anderson presented. But it's a reflection of what was shared already. So, any questions on the academic stuff there? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the bigger thing is, so just on the district, if we go to Pillar 2, the thing to check in on here at this time of year, mid-year, is our leading indicators for staff engagement. And so if you recall the strategy that we devised when we were making the strategic plan and scorecard up a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, was doing stay interviews. And if you remember, stay interview is the opposite of an exit interview. Instead of waiting until people are leaving, check in with them on a regular basis ahead of time. And it's been a positive experience. So I'm listing what we have there. Our original timeline, we hoped to do them in January. We haven't gotten them done. We've got them, most of them are scheduled. We just when we meet our weekly admin meetings, the last couple times we've talked about it and checked in on it, and there's been a lot of things that I think in both buildings that have been going on, and so I was like, you know what, we're going to be okay. It's okay if we do these into February and don't get them done by the 1st of February. It's important work, but it's not like it doesn't matter that it's going to happen by a certain deadline. So we want to make sure that we just take our time and do it the right way. So, but just to remind the process, we laid out last year, we do it with first-year teachers. They're pretty much embedded into their normal check-ins with the first-year teachers. And then people who are in their third year, so they're on the third year of their cycle, so they're supporting year 2 where they're not being necessarily observed from teachers. And then support staff on a rotational basis, so rotating through them over the years. And then we use 5 basic questions where we give the questions to the employee ahead of time so they have a chance to think about it and come in, thoughtfully. But we ask, what aspects of your job have you found most fulfilling working here? What aspects of your job have you found most challenging? And then how would you describe the support and resources provided you by the school? What suggestions do you have for improving the working conditions for current and future teachers, or insert job category there, whatever they are? And then what are some future professional goals you would like to share? So it ends up being about a 20-minute conversation with the employee, and I think some really insightful conversations, and I think them having the questions ahead of time, they really come in with some very thoughtful responses. So, and then we did in the late spring, we sat down and we put together we compiled the notes that we had for the 4 different questions and looked at that together. So we'll do that same process again. So, any other questions about the district scorecard?
Looks good then.
Okay, I'm going to sneak out again.
Okay.
Go ahead, Don.
Tanya. Thank you.
Yeah, get home safe.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right, next item of
The
business
deer
then
are running about this time of year. That's what I've noticed.
will be the review of our mid-year achievement gap reduction report.
And this one again too, I'll preview. Mrs. Anderson basically has shared this information. It lands on the calendar. We need to do the AGI report at the end of the first semester. So it's basically the information you just heard. Is there anything in there that you have questions about, or any questions about AGR?
Could I just say one thing about the scores that Mr. Melberg and I use? The special ed students are also in our district scorecard. I just want to remind us that we don't separate them. We just highlight for Ms. Power's scorecard, but their scores are included in ours too, just as a reminder. So all means all, and all of our students are all of our students. I don't want to feel like we're segregating students.
Right, good point. Yeah, thank you for reminding Sam.
And Ms. Anderson, is the numbers that we're comparing them to the same way?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we still have that same benchmark expectation for any student in our building.
Okay. Any questions on the AGR report?
No.
All right, then we're going to move on to the future financial planning timelines and considerations.
Okay, I'm gonna turn on the screen here and I'd like to share some slides. Give me a second. Sorry, Kristen, I'll try to. I'll back up.
I was trying
Once
not
get-
to run over your.
And once I get set here, I can back up and. Let's see. Never started on the right one first. So, the title of the agenda item is Timelines and Considerations for Future Financial Planning. So, like most districts, we've been talking about, looking at our budget, looking at our, this year was a tight budget. We know that going forward, like we've got our declining enrollment, and we are, like many districts, we are wrestling with how sustainable is our revenue and expenditures going forward. And so one of the tools that we have to consider down the road in the future is a possible referendum, or looking at, all the different options. So kind of just in starting that conversation with being clear that it's not a plan to do so, it's just time to start asking the question and start doing the analysis of, hey, is this something that we need to consider for the future? So to be clear about that with folks listening and so on. So our friends at Baird, I've had a couple of meetings with them. I mean, even since our last meeting in January, and they helped, provide some resources to help share with you guys. There was a possibility they might even come and talk to you tonight, but they were not available. They had other board meeting commitments too. So, but I just want to talk a little bit about, this first slide here is like, so this wheel of what are the things that factor into our our finances and our long-range finances that we do. So, in a nutshell, it's all based on our revenue limit authority. Every district in Wisconsin has a maximum amount of revenue that they're allowed to raise based on revenue limits that were established back in 1993, and then every biennium they get updated how much more, if there is more, that the districts are allowed to spend. And so that's our revenue limit authority is our amount we can spend, and it's based on per pupil dollars. So how many dollars per pupil is how it gets funded, and then based on how many pupils you have is how much money you're allowed to raise. So the first thing we look at, the first factor up there is enrollment, right at the top. So as our numbers of students rise, so does our revenue limit authority rise. And as it goes down, so then it goes down. So it's a simple dollars per pupil. It's about 12,300 some and change per pupil. And obviously you do the math, you multiply it times the 529 kids that we are going to see that we have later. And that's the base level of where you start with your enrollment or with your revenue that you're allowed to have. And as it goes, numbers of kids go down, it goes down. So that's one big factor, of course, that we talk about a lot here. The other one is the biennial budget. So the 2-year budget that is passed every 2 years with the state government. So the current one runs from 2025 to 2027. So we're in the middle of the biennium, and that is where legislature, and then they usually negotiate. We have 2 parties down in Madison, which is generally a good thing for schools to have divided government, because we tend to get more compromises, and both sides kind of having to compromise and hash things out. So this is where every 2 years they say, all right, are we going to allow an increase in the revenue limit authority, or how much is it going to be? And again, we can talk for hours and hours about how that all works. And in fact, I was at a conference today up at CC11 put on by WASBO, where they talked about declining enrollment and finances and all things related to that. It was very, very good. So anyway, we are a high aided district, meaning we get between 65 and 70% of our aid comes from the state. So this process that the state goes through every 2 years is a big impact on Clear Lake. So how much money they put into the formula is a big deal for us. The next part there's staffing, so obviously that's our biggest expense as a school district. So we have legal obligations for staffing, certain positions that we're required to have. You have to have a guidance counselor, you have to have licensed teachers, you have to have a licensed, personnel, and school psychologists, so on. You have to have minimum legal obligations that you meet there. But then we want our staffing to match with our needs. We don't want to be overstaffed because we don't want to waste money. We don't want to be understaffed because we want to make sure that we're serving the kids' needs that we have here. And then the next part there is one-time revenues or expenses. So this has a big impact on our budget. So a bus, for example, a new bus nowadays, probably $130,000. So that's a big thing to factor into your budget, a big one-time expense that may be there one year, may not be another year. We look at big, maybe curriculum purchases. Hey, it's a new, we need to get new elementary reading materials for the next 6 years. So we purchase, and that might be a big expense of $50,000 to $75,000 perhaps. Construction, maintenance projects, things like that. So big one-time expenses. Inflation, the next one, outside of our control, right? But as the economy changes and grows, cost of utilities go up, electricity and heat and so on. Cost of fuel for buses and vehicles, things like papers and books. Costs of equipment, maybe we need a new lawnmower or a new copy machine. Costs of maintenance and services. Costs more to have a plumber come in and fix something today than it did 10 years ago, of course. And then the biggest thing, cost of wages would go up with inflation. And then biggest one of all, probably cost of insurance, like health insurance, property insurance, like we did tonight. So, and some of these are out of our control, some of them are in. Enrollment, debatable, somewhat in our control, somewhat not. Certainly we can have an influence in that, but it's not totally in our control. The biennial budget, very little in our control. Staffing, somewhat in our control. One-time revenues or expenses, yes. Inflation, totally out of our control. The next item on there, fund balance and cash flow. So again, this is another big factor that we consider when we're talking about our budget. We want to maintain a fund balance, which is money that's carried over from year to year that is unspent, that exists in a theory, and you want to have enough of a percentage of your total budget that allows you to avoid having to short-term borrow. So as we have different ebbs and flows of cash flow throughout the year, we know that our expenditures are fairly steady, right? Payroll every 2 weeks or twice a month, those expenditures stay pretty steady, but our revenues are not. We get a big payment from the state, and then we are spending that down for a period of months. And we'll get maybe a big payment from the federal government, and we'll get a payment from the state. So our revenue is unsteady, so we want to have a fund balance as such that allows us to not have to short-term borrow during those low periods. So, we've maintained ours between 17 and 19% over the last 5 to 10 years. And so that's a big factor to consider. And then the last one up there, the levy management. So levy refers to our local taxes, whatever the state doesn't provide in the equalization aid formula, we are allowed to then tax local tax levy up to that revenue limit maximum, and that is another huge factor. So all of these things, I'm spending the most time on this slide. I won't spend as much time on the rest of the slides, I promise. But these are the big things that are good reminders for all of us and for our public, what goes into decision making with budget and finance. So, any questions, comments, things to add? Okay, so one of the issues that many districts have experienced over the years is that the amount of increase in revenue limit authority has not historically, particularly since 2009, has not kept up with the cost of inflation. So originally, the revenue limit was indexed to the inflation rate, and there were increases built in for costs. That's not been the case for a while. And so because of that, over time, there's been this cumulative effect of a revenue gap there. So a lot of districts, and we'll point out later, about 70% of districts across the state in the last 10 years and more beyond that have asked for a referendum, which is basically a referendum is where you go to your local taxpayers and ask them for permission to vote yes to allow you to go above the stated revenue limit authority. So there's two different types of referendums. We know there's a capital referendum, which is where you say we're going to go into debt and build a new building or do a big construction project. And then there's operational referendums where we say we don't have enough revenue to meet our payroll or to maintain our staffing, and that's an operational referendum. So, and within the umbrella of operational, you have two different types of referendums. You have recurring referendums, which is a one-time vote, and the public says, all right, we give you permission in perpetuity to go above the revenue limit this amount into the foreseeable future. And then a non-recurring referendum, which is something that is for a fixed amount of time. We say, okay, we allow you to go so many dollars above, raise so many dollars above the revenue limit for the next 4 years or 3 years or 5 years. So, and I think, this group here, we all understand, I think, the difference, but again, part of it just, being open for our public to hear us talking about this. Questions, comments, thoughts on this slide here about recurring and non-recurring, capital and operation?
Like you said, Chris, one of the main reasons we're having this conversation is that our spending authority, the revenue limit, hasn't equaled the inflation for the last period of time.
15 or so years. Yeah. I guess I just kind of went through this here, but yeah, non-recurring, the tax levy increase lasts for so long and then it stops. And if you want to do it again, you have to go back to the public and ask for it again. Recurring referendum is a one-time vote, and the funds are added to the base revenue levy authority. So, any questions or any comments about anything on the notes up there? Okay. This just shows it in graphic form. A recurring, the purple, you vote for it once, there's that increase that's shown on the bar graph there, and then that stays in perpetuity. And then versus a non-recurring, like this example would be, hey, voted to approve a 3-year non-recurring revenue exemption, and then that means in year 4 it's going to drop back down to what it was unless the district and the voters take action to continue to do it. I mentioned before, so in the last 15 years, 70% of school districts in Wisconsin have gone to referendum for operational. So that's not counting capital, it's operational, just to make ends meet, just to pay bills. So I think that's important for people to understand, because most of us look at our own budget in our home, or if we look at, and assume like kind of similar thing at school, like, well, gee, how come your expenses are outpacing? Well, are you not managing your funds appropriately? Are you spending too much money? It's not the case. It's 70% of districts have had to do this in the last 10 years, where their revenues are not keeping up with their required expenses, because of that revenue gap that's been created with the current policies that are in place. So, and you can see the blue districts there, and we're one of them. So in 2022, we did our first ever operational referendum, recurring. This is the 61% have passed one in the last 10 years. And again, if we went back further in time, it's going to be a little bit higher number than that. There's very few districts across the state who have not passed any kind of operational referendum.
Who have failed at passing them, you mean?
Or who have not had to go to one, I guess, and ask. Yeah. Again, if you go beyond the 10 years, then that number is going to be higher. This is just the last 10 years. Here's a little history of Clear Lake. So our referendum history since referendums became a thing in the 90s. So in 1996, that was a referendum to issue debt to build this building that we're sitting in. How quaint to think you could build a new high school for $6.4 million back in 1996. Pretty nice. And then in 2000, and I don't know as much about these, I wasn't around here at the time, but I know there was a failed referendum in September of 2000 to issue debt to, I believe, build on to the elementary school addition to like some early childhood spaces and kindergarten JK spaces that we ended up doing with the other one later on. And then also some non-recurring to override. Those failed in year 2000. And then in 2013, we had the referendum to update and remodel the elementary school. That $6.4 million, though, is only part of the picture because we also had the, my words are not coming to me, the energy efficiency exemption also that we did for another about $6.5 million. So that was like a $13 million project, but 6.5 was a referendum. That was to remodel the elementary and update that. That passed resoundingly. And then, like we mentioned a second ago, 2022, our first operational recurring for $800,000 a year passed in 2022. So that's just kind of a beginning the conversation, reminding folks here in the room or beyond kind of what a referendum entails, and again being very clear to say that not a plan to have, but like beginning to have the conversation. Does Clear Lake need to think about this in the future again as we have our enrollment declining and our revenues tightening? Last slide here. This just shows the when you can hold a referendum. Referendums need to be held on a regular election date. So we have fall and spring elections. It used to be that you could set your own date within limits, and that's not the case anymore. So looking ahead, the dates in 2026 and 27, you notice that in the even years, you've got fall elections. In the odd years, you just have the spring elections, like school boards and local governments. So that's just information to have, and that's the whole purpose of that, just to kind of throw it out there and have that information available. So. Comments, questions?
I think one thing we learned during our school board convention too was that it typically is best to do it during a governor race too, which would be this fall.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think you guys listened to the same presentation that I've heard recently too, a few months ago, and all the different factors of, what the research says about high turnout races, low turnout races, when's the best time to pass a local referendum, and there's definitely no one single magic answer, but there's definitely factors to consider.
Well, the last time we did this was the $800,000 for our wages for our employees, and I think that was well spent, and I think that we're seeing the repercussions or the benefits of that decision in the performance of our kids in their testing. So hopefully the public can see that we're doing diligently our best at doing what they want us to do, and hopefully we go down this road here in the future that they can continue to place their faith in us. So, all right. Anything else on future planning? Next item of business then is the review of the January pupil count.
So we do, speaking of enrollment count, so we do, of course, the third Friday in September. We do the second Friday in January. So we did our count, and then we get together with the folks. So now Mrs. Blanchard and Mrs. Roble and myself get together in this room, and we go through everything together, and we call it all out and check the numbers and everything. And so the first document there that I like to share with you, this is our head count. This is the actual numbers of bodies and seats. And then, open enrolled in, open enrolled out, and all the different factors. So we start out and we compile all this. They use Skyward and all the attendance data that they've gathered. And then we start there, and then we go through online. It's an online portal that we use, and then we enter all the information as we go. So our count is actually slightly a few students higher than it was in the fall. I wouldn't say it's any kind of a trend or whatever. And so, but just we had some students who were, I believe it was open enrolled in the past and not anymore. So we had a little small little change there. So we were at September we were at 537, and now in January we submitted 546. So I misspoke before. I was thinking 529. I don't know where I got that. Must have been last year's number.
So we went up. Woo-hoo.
A little bit, yeah. So.
Terrific. Any other questions on the pupil count? Next item of business is the highlights of the WASB State Education Convention.
So
you guys all attended. We're hoping we can get a 10,000-foot view of the different things you brought home to us.
I'll go first. I sat through the delegate assembly. One of the items there again was the decoupling, coupling of private voucher school funds, and it's showing up on our annual budget. That got voted down again to decouple it, so it is still part of it, so it'll show up, which I think it's good for our taxpayers to see where money is going. So no input on how much it'll go up for any of that. So that's one thing. And then I sat through a pretty good strategic teacher compensation. It was a couple of bigger schools, Wanakee, a couple others. Yeah, it was good to see that we kind of do the same. They call it band increases. We have a step increase for our teachers, and kind of that strategic planning. So all that's real common with what we're doing and our admin team's doing. So other than that, I sat through another conference, and it had to do with making everybody feel belonged, from community to teachers to kids. That one was based on D1 size schools where they had a lot of ethnicity differences, diversity. It was interesting. I did get one good feedback from a lady school board member at Mount Horeb. She said it really, their school's a lot like us, kind of rural, but their take on it was they try to get their kids ready for the real world outside of here and all the changes going on, so they're kind of proactive in it. I thought that was kind of a cool key point. So other than that, yeah, that's what I have. So and then I'll try and get back to the session. So.
Sounds good, Corey. Thank you.
Yep.
I went to a couple on referendums and I passed along that information. They had some really good handouts as far as what they did for communications, which most of the workshop said was just going to be your key, is how you communicate to your communities and the different ways to do that. Mine said that there are only 8 districts that haven't done some type of referendum, and those 8 are doing it this year. So by the end of the year, every district in Wisconsin will be doing it. So I mean, it's out there, so I just think we really need to stay on top of it. I went to a couple AI ones too. And then I went to, and that AI is a whole big topic. One was totally on how you set your school up policy-wise to do it, and all the steps and different ways you have to set that up. And then a couple more were more interactive, what different types of ways they're using AI. I also went to a really good one on moving your math scores. And it was with a middle school teacher actually came to the conference and taught this workshop. It was for 6th through 8th graders. And I thought it was fabulous. He was just a very energetic guy that was doing this workshop, and you could just tell math was his passion. And this and a couple of the AI classes that really talked about, you teach to where your 75% are at grade level, and then your AI you use to teach students where they're at in their ability-wise to help them move their growth scores. So it was just really interesting to hear, you know, how you teach versus what the homework reaches towards, and how AI can reach in for individualized learning, especially in math. That was just what I was really concentrating on. But I forwarded a bunch of those workshops to you. I just got the math one today, so if you're interested in that, I could forward that one too. But great workshops, yeah.
I went to, I think, the same workshop on the AI policy making. A lot of good ideas brought from there that, you know, I think we definitely need to visit that at some point this year. I saw, let's see, I went to one about, it's called Opening Doors. It was a, I can't remember, I don't have the school here, but about a district that created a portal for allowing local businesses and professional positions to open, basically apply or say that they have openings for students to do apprenticeships and those kind of things, some on-the-job training type things that will allow them to kind of create better relationships with some of those local businesses and get students into, you know, trying new jobs and those kind of things. I thought that was pretty cool. I went to one on data. There's a Watertown school district they actually they work with a programmer out of Balsam Lake that does data for schools. They make data a lot easier to read from DPI for school systems, and they have Watertown itself has a data person that feeds data to their teachers and their staff and those kind of things to help with steering the ship. But I thought it was pretty neat. They had some green light, yellow light, red light type stuff, graphs that they've made, and it was pretty interesting. And then I went through a couple on referendum, just to understand referendum better and what we need to do going forward. The one was called Wise Dash. It was the data software. And then there was one or two that I went to about just creating some unique opportunities for students to do things start learning into the trades and those kind of things, seeing other opportunities other than, when it comes down to it, only about half of our students go on to post school, and so how do we connect with the other students and have options for them when they graduate.
Just real quick, the general sessions and keynotes, and then a couple highlights for me. A good one on communication plans, and also one school to work program. Might have been the same one, Matt, that you were in, and then another AI. Sense a theme down there, talking about communication as it relates to connecting with your community and referendums. AI definitely was a theme. Every year I kind of hope for one aha. I think that Friday morning, the AI one was kind of my best one to take some take-backs, and I've actually emailed with the guy since, and he sent me some things. So, but yeah, it's just a great opportunity for networking too. Board member to board member, and see other administrators down there. So it's just and see different vendors and so on. So it was good.
Okay, so I didn't get to go to this conference. Work sent me to the WEDA conference, which is the Wisconsin Economic Development Association. Super exciting. But we keep saying, and one interesting statistic, we keep saying we need more housing, we need more housing. What they have found is for every 100 housing development unit they put in, school districts get maybe 2 to 5 students, but the district will get 48 new pets. So housing probably isn't our issue as far as an enrollment thing. So I thought that was because it keeps coming up, I thought that was a really interesting statistic, as housing's more likely to bring more animals than it is students.
Kind of fits what we, right, your wife is.
Your wife's good with that.
That fits, sorry to jump in, but that fits with what today we heard at the declining enrollment seminar we were at C11, and it was really talking about it's a math problem with population.
Yeah.
Like we just have declining
the birth rate
population,
down,
the birth rate, and the out-migration of our 25 to 35-year-olds in our state, and that even some of our quote-unquote what we think of as fast-growing districts talking about that very thing. Like, we got new houses and there's people moving in, but we're not reaping the benefit of more little kids in our buildings yet. So they're right on par with that, Christy.
It sounds like the subject matter for the WASB is as rich as it's ever been with AI and with the referendum talk.
I bet. Yeah,
good stuff.
half were one of those two topics.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
All right, scooting us along, review of the April 7th school board election timeline.
Just a reminder, we've got an election coming up in April. It's on the 7th. And so the election is on Tuesday the 7th, and we'll have our canvassing committee meeting on the 9th or 10th. And then, so Nettie, since you are the clerk and you're not up, you would be part of that. And then the board members would take their oath at the April 13th board meeting and officially take office at the end of April, and then the board reorganization meeting in May. 2 seats up for election, both incumbents, Greg and Corey, running unopposed.
Okay, sounds good. Next item of business is our board policy updates and approval. The second reading of 4140, termination and resignation, 510 wellness.
Okay, so last month we went through these. I don't believe there are any questions at that time. Termination, resignation, super short. And then the wellness policy is a bigger one, more of a beast, but we went through it at length last month. You guys all told me at length, I know. So I don't know if there's any questions or you need to go over those anymore.
Maybe we should spend a little bit more time on the
No, I move
wellness.
to approve.
I'd love to
I
talk
second
about
it.
Properly moved and seconded to approve the two new board policy updates. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is superintendent notes, Mr. Christopher Peterson.
I'll just real quick here too, just, we had in-service on January 19th. We did do on the topic of artificial intelligence. We had someone from CISA 11, Jennifer Olson, who came, did an excellent job, basically just, once again, kind of exposing our staff to some of the tools, getting them to get in and play with them and use them. Just continue breaking down those barriers to get them to use them more. And then we had a financial planning person from WEA Benefits come in and just talk to our staff about the importance of setting money aside to plan for their futures. It was nice to see a bunch of our younger teachers taking part in that and taking advantage of that. So we had a virtual learning day on January 23rd. We've got 2 days left for student minutes where we're going to be okay if we have 2 more snow days. But with the advanced planning, we were able to make it a virtual day and save those minutes. And so as far as students go, which for staff would be a little different story, but for students we're okay yet. Dunn St. Croix is hiring a new commissioner. Mr. Rosine, our AD, was on the committee for that. There was a representative from each district, ADs, principals, or SUPs, and Mike Dwyer is retiring, and I don't know that I'm at liberty quite to say for sure if it's totally set to say who the new one is, but they had a really good process there, had some really good candidates. So Mike's done it for years. Elementary celebrated 100th Day. 4th grade went to the Kindness Retreat. JK screening was last week, so we had junior kindergarten families coming in to register for next year, our newest students. Wrestling had their conference tourney last Thursday night, a little bit different way to do it on a Thursday night. They've got regionals and sectionals coming up. Sports are in full swing. Spirit Week last week, had a pep rally on Friday. Drama Club is back active and rehearsing and going again after a hiatus since COVID. Forensics is getting started up. Went to that declining enrollment workshop today. That was very enlightening. A lot of good resources to use going forward. And then, other fun stuff coming. We got Read Across America Week, first week of March. We've got National School Breakfast Week, first week of March too. So a lot of things to always keep looking forward to. So.
All right, thanks, Mr. Peterson. Next item of business is the contemplated closed session. Pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 paragraph 1C and 19.85 paragraph 1E, the board will discuss the district administrator's evaluation, discuss staffing levels, and consider proposals for competitive bidding. I'll poll the board. Nettie?
Yes.
Corey?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Christie?
Yep.
Matthew?
Yes.
All right, we are in closed session. All right, so we're back in open session. We have one more item of business, and that would be the coaching roster.
Okay, so we've got spring coaching staff roster. So all the coaches back from last year except for a couple. So baseball, Scott Pedersen, the head coach, Len Case, assistant again. Softball, Eric Morrissey's back as head coach. We still don't have an assistant coach filled yet. We've been looking. For high school track, Jenny Munson and Marcy Meyer are the head coaches of the boys and girls. They all work together. Josie Wood's going to be an assistant, and then we have still one more assistant that they're looking for. There also is a plan. They are talking about, they have multiple volunteers too, so the coaches are talking about too, maybe they get by with the volunteers or maybe some splitting or stuff like that. So if they don't have anyone who wants to truly commit to it. Middle school track, Mrs. Prusak and Mrs. Rubel again, and then golf, Jan Munson as the head coach and Ryan Blanchard as assistant if we have enough numbers for AJV only. So.
All right. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the spring coaching roster as read.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the spring coaching roster as read. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. Next item of business is the future agenda items. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to put on an agenda? If you can't think of it now, just contact us before the next board meeting. Next item of business then is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion passes. We are adjourned.